I go back up here on the big screen, one of our numerous big screens here in the studio. And I'm going to get the Book of the Face going. Not that I agree with them, but, we can webcast over them, so we're going to exercise that. And, let's see, we got to do a little bit of clean up us, bam, and boom, and then bam, and more boom. And then we billboard it up. The Sunday Night Islam Show. New England beat Kansas City today. I am not happy. They did beat them. It was 14-0 at the half. Kansas City made it back up to 2017 and then 2020 and then 23-20 and then 27-23 and then 30-27 and then what happened then? 30-30 going into overtime, and then lo and behold, New England scored a touchdown in overtime. Arr! Oh well. Tom Brady's really good, and Belichick seems to be able to coach for everything. So, with that, we put up the host. But the Rams won earlier today. You talk about back-to-back good games. Both went to overtime. Cannot complain about a good day of football there. That was a good day of football. RICHARD. And let's whip a Slezak on the end of that. And then start broadcasting. Kaboop-de-bam. All right. And, all the cameras, none of the cameras are pointed this way. Well, what I can do is, I could just head right on over to the big table. And, let's see, that's yellow, yellow, white, and blue. Okay, leave this headset behind, and I'm gonna kind of mosey over here. Oh yeah, got to get the lights up, and so we'll do that. Got those lights up and those lights up. Oh, there's one more light we can get up. Gonna get this one up over here. Over the bloop. There we go. And don't want to stumble on anything, so here we go. And make sure that, wait a minute, I'm going to put a switch on right now and make sure we got a stream going. Once I can see that stream going, there we go. Now we got the stream action going. Hello, Facebook and YouTube. Got some live action here. And, I'm going to tell you about our sponsors. And we got some good ones. Hotel Furniture Liquidators, 1648 North Shaw Road over there at East Fremont. Yeah, go get furniture for your family. Hey, wait a minute. We don't have any testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Oh, I know what I did wrong. Might help to put them on. Yeah, that helps considerably. Yeah, I'll push the button, Dickie. And yeah, that's Hotel Furniture Liquidators, 1648 North Shaw Road here in Stockton. Miracle Mile Bookstore, 2210 Pacific Avenue, and Doors Book Recyclery, 2310 Pacific Avenue. Fong, too, is the purchasing agent for them. You could maybe sell some books, too. And books for your friends, families, relatives, free books for kids. Custom Plastics and Signs, 326 East Dr. Martin Luther King Boulevard here in Stockton, where you can get plastic, rods, tubes, sheets. Yeah, and you can make cones from there, but you can, I don't know, man. That might have to heat them. Be careful about that. But yeah, you can, but you can get the raw stuff there. And 326 East Dr. Martin Luther King Boulevard, Custom Plastics and Signs. They'll fabricate. They'll build displays. They got they'll make stencils however you want. Vehicle and boat graphics. They'll print t-shirts, business cards. That's Custom Plastics and Signs. Millennium Computer Repair, Safraz Khan on the road for you. Give them a call, 209-922-1879. They'll fix up your computer, hardware and software parts. They got parts, and they're in the 209-922-1879. That's Millennium Computer Repair. Habitat for Humanity Restore, 4933 West Lane, 100 yards south of March Lane. New stuff arriving daily, gently used, doors, windows, building accoutrements, furniture, HVAC and hardware, electrical apparatus, paint and cleaning supplies, build wallboard. Here, you want wallboard. They're going to have it there. Yeah. At the Restore, Habitat for Humanity, 4933 West Lane. Tender Donuts, we bake fresh daily at 1304 East Hammer Lane here in Stockton. Get them, dozens at a time, 7 days a week. Tender Donuts, we bake fresh daily, 1304 East Hammer Lane. And Leaders T-shirt printing, 500 East Lodi Avenue at Garfield in Lodi for T-shirt and business card printing. All right. Well, things seem to be rolling. Therefore, it is time to get the show on the road. And let us get the audition up here going. And that's how we record the show for future play. 01 -20 space Sunday evening Islam show. On the go for you, building bridges, building understanding, Christian reading, history, traditions, and the Quran in more than one translation. In 3, 2, 1. Good evening, Stocktonians and listeners throughout America and around the world to KXVS.org. I am Richard Slezak. It's time for the Sunday Night Islam Show, 8:39 p.m., coming to you from the John Moriarty Studio, 231 West Bedford Road, Stockton, California. Yes, sirree. It's kind of a university of the style radio, but it's facts. This is facts. This is for understanding. About a fifth to a fourth of the world's population follows this religion, so it helps to understand what goes through their minds. And this does. So, this is from Surah 33, came forth over the years 627 to about 629, maybe as early as 626. Amani Deo, that is years after the birth of Christ, that is solar calendar, and that's our calendar. So that's when it happened 14 centuries ago in the Hijaz. Now that's Western Arabia, the part right next to, across from the Sinai, south of Jordan. Okay, 8:39, audition start. And that was YouTube, Facebook, weather, sponsors. And we're going to get into finish up Surah 33 in the 1991 Glorious Quran. And that's got footnotes in it as well, and that helps explain things. Then I'm going to go over two reports I wrote on each of these from different translations years ago, and then we're going to do a whole reading, 7 pages from the Quran, 1956 translation, and that we got right here. It's kind of old-fashioned. All righty, looks like we got 8:43, and this is Surah 33, verse 51, the glorious Quran. And here we go. You can defer whoever you desire of them, and you can lodge with you whom you please, and whomsoever you desire of those whom you have set aside temporarily. It is no sin for you to receive her again in parentheses. That is better, that they may be comforted and not grieve, and may all be pleased with what you give them. Allah knows what is in your hearts, parentheses, O men, continuing, and Allah is forgiving, clement. Footnote, marriage is an important relationship not only in our physical life, but in our moral and spiritual life, and its effects extend not only to the parties themselves, but to children and future generations. A number of special problems arise according to special circumstances. Every man and woman must seriously consider all sides of the question and must do the best that lies in his or her power to temper instincts and inclinations with wisdom and guidance from God. Verse 52. It is not allowed to you, it is to take other women henceforth, that you should change them for other wives, even though their beauty pleased you, save those whom your right hands possess, and Allah is watcher over all things. O you who believe, favor not the dwellings of the Prophet for a meal without waiting for the proper time, unless permission be granted you. But if you are invited, enter, and when your meal is ended, then disperse. Linger not for conversation, for that would cause annoyance to the Prophet, and he would be shy of asking you to go, but Allah is not shy of the truth. And when you ask of them, the wives of the Prophet, in parentheses, anything, ask it of them from behind a curtain. that is purer for your hearts and for their hearts. And it is not for you to cause annoyance to the messenger of Allah, nor that you should ever marry his wives after him. Lo, that in Allah right would be, in Allah's sight, would be an enormity. A footnote: the rules of refined social ethics are as necessary to teach today as they were with the rude Arabs whom the Holy Prophet had to teach in his day. Those mentioned in this verse may be briefly recapitulated. Thus, 1. Enter not a friend's house without permission. 2. If invited to dine, don't go too early. You are asked to dine, not to wait for the preparation of the food. 3. Be there at the time appointed. 4. After the meal, don't get familiar with your host. 5. Don't waste time in idle and titillation or titillate. 6. Understand what is proper behavior for you. He may be too polite to ask you to depart. 54. Whether you divulge a thing or keep it hidden, surely Allah is ever knower of all things. It is no sin for them, your wives, in parentheses, to converse freely with their fathers or their sons, or their brothers or their brothers' sons, or the sons of their sisters, or of their own women, or their slaves. O women, keep your duty to Allah, for Allah is witness over all things. Indeed, Allah and his angels shower blessings on the Prophet. O you who believe, ask and send blessings on him and salute him with a worthy salutation. Footnote: God and his angels honor and bless the Holy Prophet as the greatest of men. We are asked to honor and bless him all the more because he took it upon himself to suffer the sorrow and affections of his life in order to guide us to God's mercy and the highest inner life. 57. Those who malign Allah and his messenger, Allah has cursed them in the world and the hereafter, and has prepared for them the doom of the disdained. And those who malign believing men and believing women undeservedly, they bear the guilt of slander and manifest sin. A footnote: it was necessary to put down all kinds of unseemly conduct in the Prophet's city, and here is the warning in the plainest terms. And the warning had its effect. The hypocrites were men who pretended to be in Islam, but whose manners and morals were anti-Islamic. Those with diseased hearts may have been the ones that molested innocent women. Those who were stirred up sedition, put false rumors in circulation to excite the crowd. Alas, we must ask ourselves the question, are those conditions present among us today? 58. O prophet, tell your wives and your daughters and the women of believers to draw their cloaks close round them, parentheses, when they go abroad. Continuing, that will be better, that so they may be recognized and not annoyed. Allah is ever forgiving, merciful. If the hypocrites and those whose hearts is a disease, and the alarmist in the city do not cease, we verily shall urge you on against them, then they will be your neighbors in it but a little while. 61. Accursed, in parentheses, they shall suffer a curse. Continuing, they will be seized wherever found and slain with a, in parentheses, fierce, continuing, slaughter. That was the way of Allah in the case of those who passed away of old. You will not find for the way of Allah any changing. Continuing. Turning the page, and it's the last page of this. Here we go. Men ask you of the hour, say, take knowledge of it is with Allah. The knowledge of it is with Allah only. What shall make you aware of it? It may be that the hour is nigh. Surely Allah has cursed the disbelievers and has prepared for them a flaming fire, wherein they will abide forever. They will find no protecting friend or helper. On the day when their faces are turned over in the fire, they say, Oh, would that we had obeyed Allah and had obeyed His Messenger. And they say, Our Lord, we obeyed our princes and great men, and they misled us from the way. Our Lord, O give them double torment, and curse them with a mighty curse. O you who believed, be not as those who slandered Moses, but Allah proved his innocence of what they said, and he was well esteemed in Allah's sight. Footnote, the people of Moses often vexed him and rebelled against him and against God's law. It is said that Moses' own sister Miriam and his brother Aaron spoke against Moses because Moses had married an Ethiopian woman. Allah cleared Moses of the charge of having done anything wrong. My servant Moses is not so, who is faithful in all mine house. Miriam was afflicted with leprosy for 7 days as punishment, after which she was forgiven, as also was Aaron. This is the Old Testament story. The Holy Prophet was also attacked because of his marriage with Zainab bint Jahsh. And so this is worth noting at 8:55, footnote, between 69 and 70 states Moses married an Ethiopian woman, and was ridiculed by Aaron and Miriam. Okay, continuing. Verse 70, O you who believe, guard your duty to Allah, fear Allah, and speak words straight to the point. He will make whole your works for you, and will forgive you your sins. Whosoever obeys Allah and His Messenger, he verily has gained a signal victory. Surely we offered the trust unto the heavens and the earth and the hills, but they shrank from bearing it, and were afraid of it, and man undertook in parentheses, it. But he has proved a tyrant and a fool. Footnote, the heavens, the earth, the mountains, in other words, other creatures of God besides man, refuse to undertake a trust or a responsibility, and may be imagined as happy without a choice of good or evil, being given through their will. In saying that they refused, we imply a will, but we limit it by the statement that they did not undertake to be given a choice between good and evil. They preferred to submit their will entirely to God's will, which is all-wise and perfect, and which would give them far more happiness than a faculty of choice with their imperfect knowledge. Verse 73, so Allah punishes hypocritical men and hypocritical women, and idolatrous men and idolatrous women, but Allah pardons believing men and believing women, and Allah is forgiving, merciful. So, okay, that's the end of 33, and it looks like we got about 8:59. 59, Surah 33, TGQ, fini. Alrighty, let me do a little engineering check over here to make sure that everything is just riding right along. And, need to throw a switch on the Facebook. I think that worked. We'll be seeing in a few minutes. And check the radio DJ. Okay, that's still the same. I'm going to switch this again. Working within about a minute. There it goes. All righty. Looks like we got 8:58 p.m. here at KXVS.org. And I'm back. Just went over there to do some engineering. All righty. I'd like to share with you now some looking hard. Okay, it looks to be, still 8:58. Okay, this is from the clans. It's Noldeki lists it as his 13th, but later, 13th Medinan Surah. Pickthall sets the writing date of the end of 5 AH to the end of 7 AH. That's after Hijrah. That's 627 to 629. It addresses the Battle of the Trench, the alliance of the clans, the Quraysh, the Ghatafan Arabs, as instigated by the Banu Nadir, who had been exiled from Medina by Muhammad. Also the battle siege against the Banu Qurayza, their ending in Prophet's wives. And it starts out with keep your duty to Allah. Do not believe naysayers. Trust Allah. Your wives are not your mothers, and your adopted sons are different from your biological sons. 5. Proclaim parentage of adopted sons. 6. The Prophet is closer to believers than their wives or mothers. 7. Muhammad is the line of Abraham, Noah, Moses, and Jesus. Muhammad is loyal to followers and prophets of old. 9 and through 11, the great wind at the trench battle. 12, hypocrites said Muhammad was delusional. 13 through 25, treachery of Banu Qurayza, that is, they were accused. Treaty said the Jewish tribes were to fight with the Muslims. Believers stuck with Muhammad. Quraysh withdrew. Banu Qurayza, men slew women and children, sold. The men were slain in verse 26, and the women and children were sold into slavery. We have 9:01 p.m. here at KXVS.org. 27. Allah caused Muslims to attain Banu Qurayza property. Continuing a review from the Noldeki and Pickthall Quran translations. Medina was being besieged when the surah was revealed by certain Confederate tribes at the instigation of the Jews, and 627 or 626 Amani Deo, maybe earlier. Muhammad's contemporary marriage with Zainab was dealt with. God did not make your adopted. This is this is on the Confederates. Just going through these verses. This way, in violation of Arab pre-Islamic custom, Muhammad put distance between himself and Zainab. And thy back be to me as the back of my mother was the phrase Arabs used to divorce their wives. 6. Muhajirs, those who had immigrated with Muhammad from Mecca. And then in verse 8, God may question how prophets discharge their prophetic functions. 9 through 33 are a review of the year 627. Now, 3,000 Muslims fought 12,000 Arabs at and on a hill east of Medina and in a valley west of Medina. A gale force windstorm came up. It upset the tents of the Meccans and put out their campfires, turned the battle tide in the Muslims' favor. And 12, and the diseased with infidelity of heart. 13 was on the Jews and strongholds were warned. 14, had Quraysh entered Medina, the Jews would have sided with them. 15, Banu Qurayza had a treaty with the Muslims. 16, Muslims offered Banu Qurayza alliance renewal. Muslims tell Jews if Allah is no longer with them, they may be doomed. 18, Allah knows who will and will not side with you. 19, 20, hypocrites and Jews must be brought in line, not trustworthy. They're worthy of banishment. 21 through 25, Muslims had faith in Allah, granted victory. 28, if Prophet's wife desires the world, she is free to leave. If a wife desires the Prophet, she will receive immense reward. 30, Prophet with wife gets lewd, she got twice the punishment. 31, Prophet wife is obedient, she got double reward. 32, Prophet wife is utter customary speech. Looks like we got 9:04 on one clock and about 9:06 on another. Prophet's household got through spiritual cleansing. 35 men and women who are good Muslims will be rewarded. 36 disbelief is held up as rebelliousness in Prophet's house. Revelation that allowed Muhammad to marry Zainab, this is 37, Zayd's wife, right after a quick divorce. 38, Allah excuses himself from abrogating a long-standing law, and I think that was mentioned earlier. And in 50a, yeah, something about 33:6 abrogates 873, and 13 in the Rodwell Quran got into Salman the Persian had directed trenches dug around Medina to disrupt invaders. 14 Muslim soldiers were in the trenches leaving the city undefended. The Confederates suggested they would ransack the city, but Muhammad reminded them that they would have to eliminate the Muslim army ultimately. The Arab Muslims feared the siege would not be lifted. God and Apostle promise was that paradise would be the reward for the Muslim soldiers. And yes, I'm still up there being videoed. Muhammad made a successful expedition about against the Banu Qurayza for their treasury violation of local treaties. Some were slain. And 800 men who were 15 and above, and the women and children were sold into slavery. And in 28, Muhammad's wives had been clamoring for opulence. He gave them the choice of leaving or living as Muhammad directed. 34, the pronouns are in plural masculine and plural feminine. Shiites claim this includes Ali in the Prophet's household, that is, in intimate union. 37, God justifies Zayd divorcing Zainab so that Muhammad could marry Zainab. 39, Allah kept good account with Muhammad. 40, Muhammad had no sons, thus easy law to change. 41, believe and remember Allah. 42, glorify Allah. 43, Allah blessed you. Allah will guide believers into heaven. Is 44, Muhammad has been prophet, witness, bringer of good things, and warner. 46, Muhammad, summoner and lamp who gives light. Bounty is coming to believers. 48, do not believe hypocrites or disbelievers. Trust Allah. Marriage without consummation amongst believers, no reckoning, period, is 49. The wives of Muhammad, A, included ones which dowries were paid, ones attained as spoil of war, cousins, daughters of aunts and uncles. The Prophet had privilege of having more than 4 wives. 51, Prophet could set a wife aside and take her back. Allah said, no more wives for Muhammad unless he got one via enslavement. Rules of decorum to the Prophet. First, go to him if invited by him. The Prophet enter his home at appointed time. Eat and leave unless the Prophet asks you to stay. Speak to Prophet's wives from behind a curtain. Continuing, these are my notes on Surah 33 from other translations. 43 from the Rodwell's Quran. Peace was how Muslims greeted Prophet Muhammad. 47, do not obey the infidels and the hypocrites. 50, Muhammad had 9 wives, and a number of concubines by 627. 55, Muslim women may speak to their fathers, sons, brothers, nephews, other women, and their slaves. Now, nephews, other women, and their slaves they can do unveiled. Speaking to others requires they're required to wear the veil. 59, Omar Kalthum, a daughter of Mohammed's, died, leaving Fatima. 69, Numbers 12:1, Quran charged Moses with adultery. Verse 69 was revealed as aspersions thrown at Muhammad for unfairly dividing spoils. Muhammad answered, God be merciful to my brother Moses. He was wronged more than this and bore it with patience. And the meaning of the glorious Quran, this is back to the Pickthall. 53, prophets' wives not to marry after being married to the prophet. And fifth, do not annoy the prophet or his wives. 54, Muslims can keep knowledge hidden in speech. Muslim wives can speak to kin but not beyond. 56, blessings to the prophet and salute him when seen. Do not malign Allah or prophet. Allah will curse you in this world and hereafter. 58, slander and manifold sin for non-believer who undeservedly maligns a believer. Muslim wives and daughters are to have cloaks drawn tightly around them so that they may be recognized and not annoyed. 60 through 69, those who slandered Moses referred to Banu Qurayza. These verses are on hypocrites and alarmists. In Medina, Muslims urged against them by Allah, hypocrites and alarmists to be seized when found and slaughtered. 62, those who did not follow Allah of old are now in hell. Warning, the hour is nigh. 63, disbelievers go to hellfire. 65, forever. All rightius. Looks like we got about 9:13 or so here at KXVS.org, which flows the voice of Stockton.org. I am Richard Sleazackle. We got 9:12 on one of the clocks, so got a variety of time around here. Yeah, I know. Coordinate them. Okay, 9:12. Fini. Analysis. Notes 50 through 53. All righty, time to gobble up 7 pages in the Quran. 1956 English, and it's a little different from 1991 or 1932. And so that's, if anything, is one of the factors in how and why translations differ. You know, yeah, languages evolve. You know, words come in and out. You know, so here we go. The Confederate Tribes, in the name of Allah, the Compassionate, the Merciful. Prophet, have fear of Allah and do not yield to the unbelievers and the hypocrites. Allah is wise and all-knowing. Obey what is revealed to you from your Lord, for Allah is cognizant of all your actions, and put your trust in Him. He is your all-sufficient guardian. Allah has never put 2 hearts within one man's body. He does not regard the wives whom you divorce as your mothers. And footnote, the allusion to the formula, be to me as my mother's back, accepted among pagan Arabs as a declaration of divorce, nor your adopted sons as your own sons. These are mere Oh my, let's get it right here. Fine, mere words which you utter with your mouths, but Allah declares the truth and guides to the right path. Name your adopted sons after their fathers, that is more just in the sight of Allah. If you do not know their fathers, regard them as your brothers in the faith and as your wards. Your unintentional mistakes shall be forgiven, but not your deliberate errors. Allah is forgiving and merciful. The Prophet has a greater claim on the faithful than they have on each other. His wives are their mothers. Allah ordains that blood relations are closer to one another than to other believers or muhajirs, although you are permitted to do your friends a kindness that is decreed in Allah's book. Now, Muhammad's early followers who fled with him to Medina are the muhajirs, and by leaving them bequests is to your friends. We made a covenant with you, as we did with the other prophets, with Noah and Abraham, with Moses and Jesus, the son of Mary. A solemn covenant we made with them, so that Allah might question the truthful about their truthfulness. But for the unbelievers he was prepared a woeful punishment. Believers, remember Allah's goodness to you when you were attacked by your enemy's army. We unleashed against them a violent wind and invisible warriors. Allah saw all that you were doing. They attacked you from above and from below, so that your eyes were blurred, your hearts leapt to your throats, and your faith in Allah was shaken. There the faithful were put to the proof. There they were severely afflicted. The hypocrites and the faint-hearted said, Allah and his apostle have deceived us. Others said, people of Yathrib, and that's the old name of Medina, you cannot stand much longer. Go back to your city. And yet others sought the Prophet's leave, saying, our homes are defenseless, whereas they were not. They only wished to flee. Had the enemy invaded the city from every quarter and roused them to rebellion, they would have surely rebelled, but they would have occupied it only for a short while. Before that they swore to Allah never to turn their backs and flight. They shall be questioned about their oath hereafter. Let me do a engineer check. We're 285, reading to 290. And let me see what's up on the screen right there. Yeah, that's moving. Good. Okay. And am I back? Yep, I'm back. Just going over there across the studio. It's not very far. This is not a large studio by any means. All righty, let me paper clip these back together and continue utilizing the blue mic. Yeah, blue mic's pretty good. Say nothing will your flight avail you. If you escaped from death or slaughter, you would enjoy this world only for a little while. Say, who can protect you from Allah if it is his will to scourge you, and who can prevent him from showing you mercy? They shall find none besides Allah to protect or help them. Allah knew well knows those of you who prevent others from following the apostle, who say to their comrades, "Join our side," and seldom take part in the fighting, being ever reluctant to assist you. When fear overtakes them, they look to you for help. Look to you, and that is footnoted in this Quran, that they look to you, Muhammad, for help, their eyes rolling as though they were on the point of death. But once they are out of danger, they assail you with their sharp tongues, covetously demanding the richest part of the booty. Such men have no faith. Allah will bring their deeds to nothing. That is no difficult thing for Allah. They thought the Confederate tribes would never raise the siege. Indeed, if they should come again, they would sooner be in the desert among the wandering Arabs. There they would ask news of you, but they were with you. They would take but little part in the fighting. There is a good example in Allah's apostle for those who look to Allah and the last day and remember Allah always. When the true believers saw the Confederates, they said, "This is what Allah and His apostle have promised us. Surely their promise has come true," and thus increased their faith and submission. Among the believers there are men who have been true to Allah. Some have died and others wait their end, yielding to no change. Allah will surely reward the faithful for their faith and sternly punish the hypocrites, or show them mercy if He will. Allah is forgiving and merciful. Allah turned back the unbelievers in their rage, and they went away empty-handed. He helped the faithful in the stress of war. Mighty is Allah and all-powerful. He brought down from their strongholds those who had supported them from among the people of the book, and cast terror into their hearts, so that some you slew and others you took captive. He made you masters of their land, their houses, and their goods, and of yet another land on which you had never set foot before. Truly, Allah has power over all things. Prophets, say to your wives, if you seek this life and all its finery, come, I will take provisions for you and release you honorably. But if you seek Allah and His apostle and the hereafter, know that Allah has prepared a rich reward for those of you who do good works. Wives of the Prophet, those of you who commit a proven sin shall be doubly punished. That is no difficult thing for Allah, but those of you who obey Allah and His apostle and do good works shall be doubly rewarded. For them we have made a generous provision. Wives of the Prophet, you are not like other women. If you fear Allah, do not be too complacent in your speech, lest the lecherous-hearted should lust after you. Show discretion in what you say. Stay in your homes and do not display your finery, as women used to do in the days of ignorance. Footnote, pre-Islamic days. Attend to your prayers, give alms to the poor, and obey Allah and His apostle. Women of the Prophet's household, Allah seeks only to remove uncleanliness from you and to purify you. Commit to memory the revelations of Allah and the wise sayings that are recited in your dwellings. Benignant is Allah and all-knowing. Those who surrender themselves to Allah and accept the true faith, who are devout, sincere, patient, humble, charitable, and chaste, who fast and are ever mindful of Allah, on those, both men and women, Allah will bestow forgiveness and a rich reward. It is not for true believers, men or women, to take their choice from in their affairs if Allah and His Apostle decree otherwise. He that disobeys Allah and His Apostle strays far indeed. You said to the man, and that's footnoted as Zayd, Muhammad's adopted son, whom Allah and yourself have favored, keep your wife and have fear of Allah. You sought to hide in your heart what Allah has to reveal. And 3 is your intention to marry Zayd's wife. And you were afraid of man, although it would have been more right to fear Allah. And when Zayd divorced his wife, we gave her to you in marriage, so that it should become legitimate for true believers to wed the wives of their adopted sons if they divorce them. Allah's will must needs be done. No blame shall be attached to the Prophet for doing what is sanctioned for him by Allah. Such was the way of Allah with the prophets who passed away before him. Allah's decrees are preordained. That's in parentheses. Continuing, who fulfilled the mission with which Allah had charged them, fearing Allah and fearing none beside him sufficient is Allah's reckoning. 287. And what time do we have here? It looks to be about 9:26. Okay, that's page 287 in the Quran. And that is just pretty straightforward. Allah's decrees are preordained. Ooh-wee, lot of theology right there. Continuing. Muhammad is the father of no man among you. Muhammad left no male heirs. He is the apostle of Allah and the seal of the prophets. Allah has knowledge of all things. Believers, be ever mindful of Allah. Praise Him morning and evening. He and His angels bless you, so that He may lead you from darkness to the light. He is merciful to true believers. On the day they meet Him, their greeting shall be peace. A rich reward He has prepared for them. Prophet, we have sent you forth as a witness, a bearer of good news, a warner, one who shall call men to Allah by His leave and guide them like a shining light. Tell the faithful that Allah has bounteous blessings in store for them. Do not yield to the unbelievers and the hypocrites. Disregard their insolence. Put your trust in Allah. Allah is your all-sufficient guardian. Believers, if you marry believing women and divorce them before the marriage is consummated, you are not required to observe a waiting period. Provide well for them and release them honorably. Prophet, we have made lawful to you the wives to whom you have granted dowries, and the slave girls whom Allah has given you as booty, the daughters of your paternal and maternal uncles, and of your paternal and maternal aunts who fled with you, and the other women who gave themselves to you, and whom you wish to take in marriage. And At this time, Mohammed had 9 wives apart from slave girls. That's a footnote. This privilege is yours alone, being granted to no other believer. We well know the duties we have imposed on the faithful concerning their wives and slave girls. We grant you this privilege so that none may blame you. Allah is forgiving and merciful. You may put off any of your wives you please, and take to your bed any of them you please. Nor is it unlawful for you to receive any of those whom you have temporarily set aside. That is more proper, so that they may be contented and not vexed, and may be pleased with what you give them. And I'll leave this mid-page here because I got to check to make sure. Oh, okay. That's still working. And let me take a look at the audition. Yeah, that's looking good. We're up in the 50-minute zone, and take a look at Radio DJ. And Radio DJ's looking good. We've got 9:31 here at KXVS.org, the voice of Stockton, coming to you. It's the Sunday Night Islam Show. And let me get back on screen. Here I am. Hello, hello. And back to the Quran in 1956 British English. Allah knows what is in your hearts, and that is the believers, what's in the believers' hearts. He is benignant and all-knowing. It shall be unlawful for you, Mohammed, to take more wives or to change your present wives for other women, though their beauty please you, except these where slave girls are concerned. Allah takes cognizance of all things. Believers, do not enter the houses of the Prophet for a meal without waiting for the proper time unless you are given leave. But if you are invited, enter, and when you have eaten, disperse. Do not engage in familiar talk, for this would annoy the Prophet, and he would be ashamed to bid you go. But of the truth, Allah is not ashamed. If you ask his wives for anything, speak to them from behind a curtain. This is more chaste for your hearts and for their hearts. You must not speak ill of Allah's apostle, nor shall you ever wed his wives after him. This would be a grave offense in the sight of Allah. Whether you hide or reveal them, Allah has knowledge of all things. It shall be no offense for the Prophet's wives to be seen unveiled by their fathers, their sons, their brothers' sons, their sisters' sons, their women, and their slave girls. Women have fear of Allah, for he observes all things. The Prophet is blessed by Allah and his angels. Bless him then, you are true believers, and greet him with a worthy salutation. Those who speak ill of Allah and his apostle shall be cursed by Allah in this lifetime and in the one to come. He has prepared for them a shameful punishment. Those who traduce believing men and believing women undeservedly shall bear the guilt of slander and gross sin. Prophet, enjoin your wives, your daughters, and the wives of true believers to draw their veils close around them. That is more proper, so that they may be recognized and not molested. Allah is forgiving and merciful. If hypocrites and those who have tainted hearts and scandalmongers of Medina do not desist, we will rouse you against them, and their days in that city will be numbered. Cursed whoever they are found, they will be seized and put to death. Such has been the way of Allah. With those who have gone before them, you shall find his ways unchanged. You are asked about the hour of doom. Say, Allah alone has knowledge of it. Who knows? It may well be that it is near at hand. Allah has laid his curse upon the unbelievers and prepared for them a blazing fire. Abiding there forever, they shall find none to protect or help them. On the day when their heads will roll about in hell, they shall say, would that we have obeyed Allah and the Apostle. And they shall say, Lord, we obeyed our masters and our great ones, but they led us away from the right path. Lord, let their punishment be doubled. Lay on them a mighty curse. Excuse me. Believers, do not believe like those who slandered Moses. Allah cleared him of their calumny, and he was exalted by Allah. Believers, fear Allah and speak the truth. He will bless your works and forgive you your sins. Those who obey Allah and his apostle shall win a great victory. We offered our trust to the heavens, to the earth, and to the mountains, but they refused the burden and were afraid. To receive it, man undertook to bear it, but he has proved a sinner and a fool. Allah will surely punish the hypocrites and the idolaters, both men and women, but to believing men and to believing women he shall show mercy. Allah is forgiving and merciful. And that was the Confederate Tribes. And the Quran, 1956 translation, quite a bit there, ooey ooey. And hypocrites and those who have tainted hearts, they were ultimately banished and seized and put to death. This was the green light for it. So, hoo-wee, rock'em sock'em times there in the Hijaz, green lighted by Mohammed, right there in the Quran. All right, we got 9:37 p.m. and the Quran, Confed Tribes, Surah 33, Fini. Yeah, Allah, Muhammad got a slave girl wife out of the Banu Qurayza, and later on at Khaybar in 629, he'll be getting one at from there, another slave girl Jewish wife or slave woman, young woman, and that was okay for him to have, but not for other Muslims. They could only go up to 4 wives, but then they could have slave girls too. So that was part of the booty and part of the desires, motivating factors and their fighting. And so that's been this week's edition of the Islam Show. We'll be going to the ranks coming up next week. That's Surah 57, I believe. And I think we'll have time to read from both the glorious Quran and the Quran, plus notes I've taken from other readings. So, looking forward to next week. Hope you learned something this evening about Islam. It's always a little bit at a time. No worry, you don't have to take it in all at once. So, that would be rather unnatural. So with that, we'll be talking to you later. This is KXVS.org. This has been the Sunday Evening Islam Show for January 20th, 2019. And we're continuing here at KXVS.org. I'm going to say, well, first off, let me turn the camera over here. Hey, there we go. And I'm going to bid adieu. Oh, let's just turn two of them. Oh my, it looks like that third camera is just a bit too far of a reach. Wait, what do we got here? Oh, that's the high camera. And I'm going to wait until we get, there we go. All righty, I'm going to click off now. And first the